Hey everyone, welcome back to another recap podcast from SNXweave, where we give quick weekly recaps of news and important updates from the previous week from the Spartan Council and core contributors, as well as discuss what the Grants Council and ambassadors are up to, so let's get started. The V3 work going forward will be divided into two streams, core system and markets. The updates for both of these streams as of now are as follows. SIP 320 was presented yesterday based on feedback from OpenZeppelin on the spot market implementation, and the final report from them should be available this week. The next major release, which will be spot markets, should be out by the end of April. Lastly, the main objective for the CCs right now is getting the full system, including the LP and market mechanism, working as soon as possible. There are no major updates for Perps v2, but Caleb brought up something that's worth discussing. He flagged that SUSD could begin trading at a premium following the next update and the raising of the open interest caps. He said it may be necessary to increase stablecoin wrappers before the next release in order to absorb some of the increased demand. Adam highlighted that a high premium might indicate that the incentives are too high for the value that the protocol would get from offering them. He thinks a better solution would be to dial the incentives to match the demand instead of introducing more risk via stable wrappers. There is consensus that these details should be ironed out before incentives begin in order to avoid SUSD trading at a premium. Mike, the author of the SIP, will circle back with Quenta and the Treasury Council to develop a contingency plan in case there's an SUSD liquidity crunch. Terra thinks whatever liquidity provisions need to be made to accommodate the increased demand should be worked out rather than pulling incentives. An option to use stablecoin wrappers other than USDC or DAI, possibly one of the Euro stables, was also discussed, but it was determined that they would introduce the same risk. FIF estimates that there would need to be an additional $20 million in SUSD liquidity to match the increased demand, and thinks that changing the rewards in response to SUSD demand may turn off traders. Next, the direct integration SIP was also presented last week by Gotham for Polynomial, so let's go over that briefly. SIP 2008 proposes a direct integration for polynomial basis trading. This SIP proposes adding an exchange done by the Polynomial smart wallets, which lowers the exchange fee for SETH and SBTC to 5 basis points and disables dynamic fees. Polynomials integrating basis trading into their platform, and the lower fee doesn't introduce any more risk to the protocol, but makes the product more attractive, which would drive volume. Caleb asked if the position was user managed or automated. It was explained that the user needs to manage their own leverage, as each user will have an individual position. The expectation is that users will have open positions while the funding rate is positive, but that they will be closed if the funding rate goes negative. Adam pointed out that if this mechanism encouraged the directional trade, at scale, it may impact the network funding rate skew for synthetics. He then asked if it would be possible to implement the inverse mechanism this SIP proposes. Gotham said they're currently looking into it, but it's a bit out of scope for this SIP, and SIP 2008 is a bit easier for users to understand, which is why it's being proposed and implemented first. The SIP has passed with 7 votes in favor. In Grants Council updates, the team completed several outstanding tasks from the week prior, including fixing permissions on the RBot. The dev for the stats page returned unfinished work, so it has been sent back for additional fixes. The council came to a consensus around a few candidates for the NFT lore based on their internal voting and review, and it was decided that Anna is going to make the final selection based on the second round criteria. And lastly, the 2 grant proposals that were up for votes were both rejected, and a budget meeting has been initiated between the grants and the Treasury Council that will happen sometime in the near future. And that's it for today's updates. Be sure to check out our weekly recap blog post, share this podcast link, and let us know what you think and what you'd like to hear more about from SNXweave. Thanks for listening.